Hello people there, this is TheRubyRevolution. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to, I guess this is a dev blog. But anyway, basically earlier Gaijin were doing a dev for server stream on Twitch where they're showing off some of the new things coming with the new patch. And right at the end of the stream, they showed off the Phantom and it was carrying AIM-7 Sparrows. Now, if you don't know what AIM-7 Sparrows are, they're a form of radar-guided air-to-air weaponry. Basically, radar-guided missiles are now coming to War Thunder. Now there's lots of different types of radar guided munitions. Very early systems would basically use a form of a radar beam riding where the missile would literally ride the beam to the target to be able to hopefully hit it. But they're very easy to dodge and it was very easy to break the lock on these types of systems. AIM-7s are semi-active radar homing air-to-air missiles. Basically what this means is the host aircraft, the parent aircraft, has to paint the target, light the target up with its radar transmitter, and then the missile, which only has a receiver on it, then picks up the return from this, and then it tracks and hopefully hits the target. Then there is active radar homing, where the missile itself contains its own radar transceiver and it can track and hopefully hit whatever it's being fired at autonomously and doesn't need the parent aircraft to then paint the target for it. And then with more modern systems, you get a data downlink between the missile, the parent aircraft, and both of them can have transmitters on to maximize the chances of being able to hit or whatever they're being fired at. But I digress. These AIM-7s, basically how they're going to work in War Thunder. At present, as many of you know, with the infrared seeking missiles, you can slave the infrared to the radar to be able to give it a more chance of tracking and hitting the target. But once that infrared missile is off the rails, then have no control over the infrared missile as it travels to the target. Basically, the main difference is going to be with these new missiles is you're going to have to keep the target painted with these with the radar as these radar guided missions are traveling to the target. Now, the main advantages of these types of weaponry compared to infrared guided munitions is firstly that pretty much all aspect type missiles, as long as you can get a lock onto the target, you can launch them as long as you're keeping the target painted. So head-ons with these types of missiles is now going to be a possibility compared to infrared, which you generally can't really get to work in War Thunder. The secondly is the engagement range of these missiles is absolutely insane compared to a lot of infrared. Some of the AIM-7s, the later models, have a range of 85 kilometers or 53 miles, which is absolutely insane when you consider the size of the maps in War Thunder. Even the earlier ones have a range of 14 miles or 22 kilometers, so that's definitely going to be quite interesting in terms of War Thunder. They're also going to be able to fire in clouds as well, because if you get the lock onto them in clouds, then you can be able to fire the missiles off. Unlike in War Thunder at the moment, where infrared missiles don't work in clouds at all, so that's going to be an interesting change. And also, lastly, for things like the Phantom as well, it just means more ordnance. The Phantom is going to be able to carry 4 of these radar-guided missiles, as well as the 4 sidewire missiles to top it off. So there's definitely a lot of advantages of having these radar-guided munitions. Now there is, however, a lot of counters to these radar missiles. Firstly, as soon as somebody is going to be locking onto you with a radar, you're going to be getting massive screaming from the radar warner. So you know somebody's going to be attacking you with these types of weaponry. You might not know that they've launched the missile yet, but you do know that somebody is going to be painting you and trying to lock onto you with radar. Now also, the second thing is the most obvious thing. You try and maneuver just out to get away from the missile. Try and break line of sight with them. Try and fire low, because a lot of these early radar don't work very good to the ground. So trying to break line of sight, trying to fly close to the ground, or even into clouds, because sometimes clouds can break the radar lock as well. Now, can also move into the realm of electronic countermeasures and electronic support measures. Yes, these are the types of systems we're going to have to start talking about now, with radar-guided munitions being added into the game. Things like jamming. There's a plethora of different types of jamming techniques to be able to stop the enemy know what you're doing, be able to lock onto you, know your position, and to be able to fire radar guided munitions at you. So you can also do things like painting a false target to put yourself into a different position, or be able to block them so they don't know the range you are away from them. There's also active type of things like decoys, chaff, as well as then moving into the realm of countermeasures where you're trying to counter the enemy which are trying to jam you so you can't lock onto them. It gets into a whole very weird and wonderful when you get into these types of modern systems. For War Thunder though, I think it's going to be very simple. Lock on with the radar, keep them locked on, launch the missile off, keep them painted, and hopefully be able to hit the target. And if you're being tracked with a radar guard mission, you're going to get a radar warning, and you're just going to have to try and dodge it with maneuvering. I think maybe in this patch, maybe very soon we'll probably see chaff, because that's probably the most active way of being able to dodge these types of missiles. And I think then with the next generation of aircraft, with things like the F-14, etc., we'll start seeing these more electronic countermeasures added in to give the little bit more of an edge of trying to counter them, because moving forward into like the 1980s and 1990s, radar guard munitions become very sophisticated with trying to get and trying to hit enemy aircraft. In terms of my own thoughts on this, it's pretty interesting and pretty exciting that adding these new types of weaponry into the game. We're always going to be progressing further into the future eventually with War Thunder. As we're moving into like the late 60s and moving into the 70s, these types of weapons had to be added in eventually. But I don't think they're going to be stupidly overpowered, especially the earlier models, which are very unreliable and definitely bad in terms of the hit percentage when it came to getting a kill on an enemy aircraft. To put it into perspective, in Vietnam, the AIM-7s only had a success rate as low as 10%, so they're definitely not going to be the be-all or end-all on missiles. They're definitely going to be long-range munitions, be able to hit targets at range, but I think they are definitely going to be easily dodged and easily countered, especially if they add chaff in. Because that will give a different dynamic, different ways to be able to dodge and avoid these types of missiles. As we progress, however, more into the future, like I said, the 1970s, the 1980s and 90s, these types of weapons are then going to become very sophisticated with how they work, and then we're going to have to get another types of layers to try to counter all of these weapon systems. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting, but the question is though, is how well are Gaijin going to be able to model and implement all these different types of systems into the game? And I think personally they're probably not going to do the best job of it, and they're going to keep it rather simple. But anyway, let me know in the comments below what you think of radar guided munitions being added in to the game. Let me know in the comments below. Pretty interesting addition. I'm pretty excited to see how it's going to work. But anyway, please like, comment, share, all that good stuff, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one sometime soon. Bye.